Good evening. I am totally surprised after 10 hours you're still here. So I'm going to try and put some fuel on the fire. And I want to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. That is not just because everybody's been talking about it for the last, 2 years. I've been doing this for 22 years, and 20 years there was peace and quiet. I could actually do some work, and for 2 years there's a hype, and everything that has some statistics in it is called artificial intelligence these days, and we have to look behind the scenes now. So let's start with demystifying some of the artificial intelligence myths that are around now, that are, well, helpful or not helpful in a lot of cases. So number one, a computer does not understand anything. So whenever someone tells you my ABC software understands blah, 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 you know you're being marketed to. That is simple, right? Because a language, especially language, is too complex for computers, way too complex. What a computer can do is it can compare an incoming data stream to a already pre-created understanding structure, but the understanding has to come from somewhere else. The second thing is that comparing computers to human brains is simply ridiculous. I mean, a large neural network has a few million nodes, a few million neurons. The brain of an average person has 86 billion neurons. I mean, that is, calling that brain-like is a joke. Plus, the human brain also has a chemical system and most likely a quantum mechanical system in it. There is dimensions and dimensions that human brains do have beyond what we do in AI. And then, in order to run such a large multi-million node neural network, you need a nuclear power plant, or something close to, and the human brain, now look at me, I don't get this, but most of you do, runs on 20 watts. All right, so number three problem with AI is not machine learning. Machine learning is one of the disciplines of AI. There are many disciplines to AI. The three fundamental ones is learning, reasoning, and genetic algorithms. But because they have always been fighting for budget, there's always one prevailing, right? At one point it was expert systems, then it became neural networks, and so right now it's learning. But if you want to build a more general AI, then you need multiple algorithms. I mean, if you look at how real intelligence works, you don't do math with your eyes, do you? Okay, so let's look behind the scenes. What is happening? What is the market? And how does this all work? A few years ago, AI was a marketing gag. And if you want to do marketing, that's quite simple today. Like, I can tell you how to market AI properly without lying to your clients. You take out your phone, you take 5 pictures, you say, we are doing AI. Because while doing that, all the autofocus, some of the image recognitions, all these are AI algorithms. And AI, among the larger AI teams, we have this fun saying that it is only called AI until it works, then it gets a real name. While it doesn't work. If it works, it gets a real name. Right? So today, doing AI might be make or break. But doing AI means much more than using some algorithm in some place for something, little tiny project in your marketing budget. And why am I saying that? Why is AI make or break? Well, that's quite simple. Is because 80% of the processes you have in today's companies can be run by an AI with today's technology. Like, you don't have to wait for Lieutenant Commander data. You don't have to wait for the quantum computer, whatever. This is what actually works today. And it is not very much because people like me have made AI so much smarter. It's mainly because you have made your companies nicely machine accessible. You have tailorized it, you have cut everything in small pieces, you have put processes in, guidelines, and so on, right? You have made machines able to access companies. That is what really has happened. And with an efficiency level of 80, 90%, you cannot say that this will not be done. Like, it doesn't matter what law you create, it will be done. So the only way to do this is embrace it. And I want to make the argument why it totally makes sense to embrace it, especially for the old economy. Unfortunately, if you look at the investment, the people who need AI least, the larger tech companies, invest the most into AI. And as we've heard this morning from Alex, is sometimes you need to go sell weapons to the old guys so that he can defend themselves. Because currently, there's only 8 or maybe 9 network effect real exponential companies in the world. And if they would take over everything, it would be kind of bad. It's not their fault that they're running better than the others, but still, so the others need to improve. Why am I saying this, right? So we can compare the old and the new economy. On your left side, you see the economic model of a new economy, of an exponential company. They make their money, all their money, with about 20% of the company. That's what it takes to run the platform, to sell the ads, and so on. Then you have financial analysts. The financial analysts don't have a fucking clue about what these companies are doing. They write down something like the company should make a margin of 30%. Well, 20 plus 30 is 50, right? You have 50% money left over to do something. And I think we have to pay big respect to these large companies that especially we in Europe seem to be so afraid of. They don't take the money and run. They actually invest it into cool stuff, like self-driving cars, like medicine, like communication, like medical research, and so on, right? The problem is that the old economy can't follow on this, because we have all been to business school, and in the business school you get taught like there's cost of production, there's a little margin that you probably save by getting more efficient in production, and then there's what you give out to the shareholders. That's the problem. There is simply not enough money in the old economy to do crazy stuff. Let me give you an example. If one of those network effects companies had a program to run cancer research, we had a nice gentleman from Alibaba here up there. Imagine his boss, Jack Ma, comes out and has to say, like, ladies and gentlemen, we have invested $500 million into cancer research in the last 18 months, and the product that we have been working on does not work. What happens? He gets congratulated for trying. Rightly so, because he tried. If you are the CEO of a company like Pfizer or Bayer or Boehringer or anything like that, and you have to say the same thing, you step in front of the analysts and you say, like, ladies and gentlemen, the drug that is on our pipeline, we've invested 500 million into for the last 18 months, we have to take it out because it won't work. What is going to happen there? That guy is going to be fired the same hour, and he is very fortunate if the stock only goes down by 30%. So here's a fight with very unequal weaponry. The second thing that is happening is intermediation, or disintermediation, if you want to call it. This is one of the first nice applications of AI or AI technology on the large platform side. What we have learned in business school, you see to your left side right here, is there's producers of goods and services, and these producers of goods and services use multiple channels to try and attract customers, online, offline, whatever, how they do it, omni-channel stuff. And sometimes they find a stupid person and that person buys. In the new world, a person talks to his personal assistant, and the personal assistant picks which goods and services to buy. Now in Europe, on both of these ends, right, we always stand up and cry wolf, right? We said, this is bad, we need regulation, we need rules, we have to stop these companies and blah. We don't. We're just complaining because they're doing this better. I mean, look at people who are producing the self-driving car. Cars are economically stupid. 98% of their lifetime, they're an expensive resource, they stand around and rust. Like, you have to change this. The pharmaceutical industry has spent 30 years in collecting genetic profiles. They got 1 million profiles to do the next generation of research. A small company like 23andMe has collected 40 million profiles, and people paid for it. Like, these guys are doing it better. This is not they are evil people, this is they're doing it better. And here, our European consumer protection agencies go up like, this is so bad for the consumer, oh my God, and blah, artificial intelligence kills everything. No, it doesn't. Like, on this side, on the old economy, you have to make your money on every single transaction. You cannot afford to have, at least not in the long term, you cannot afford to have transactions be loss-making. That means sometimes you're going to rip off your client. There are producers that do that. On a platform, a customer has a lifetime value. The platform will gladly give the consumer whatever is best for the consumer, even if they make a loss with one transaction, because the worst thing that can happen to the platform is, well, the customer leaves to one of the 7 other companies. This is why this is not a topic for regulation. This is a topic for either changing the role of old industry to the people who supply, or innovating. So here's what you can do in this world to survive. If you're an old company, there's 3 things you need to do if you want to survive in this new world. You need to have a great brand. You need to have a great brand because if you have a great brand, people will ask for you, and that is good because then you're going to make a sale. But that's not enough, right? Because if someone goes against you and they're willing to make loss for a bit, then the great brand will help you enough. The second thing you need to do is you need to do innovation. Because if you have something new that no one else has, people will ask for it and it gets sold. The third thing you have to do, and this might be surprising to you because for the last 50 years we have been reducing this, is you will have to increase service. Because if in the service lies your only touch point with your client, you will want to talk to that client for sure. Service is coming back. In a world of AI, human-to-human service is coming back big time. So this was what you have to do to survive. And if you want to do more than survive, but actually compete, it means you have to change your business model to find your own exponential scale. For all 3 things you have to do to survive, and especially for the thing you have to do to compete, what do you need? You need people that are creative, and you need money. So this is the reason why you need AI. So what does this AI mysterious stuff look like? What's the market? How does it work? Can you actually compete on that stuff? That is quite easy. On your right side, you see all the stuff that you read on the paper. You constantly keep reading about self-aware, self-learning, self-this and that. Basically, you keep reading about the robot that will say, I love you, and A, understand what it's saying, and B, means it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you the news. This is not anywhere close. I know all these big AI teams in the world. I can tell you, no one is working on this. No one even knows how to start working on this. Don't worry about that yet, because upending 80% of all work done and re-employing people to actually be creative and do service is a bigger challenge we're facing like within the next 5 years maybe. So that's science fiction. By the way, that also puts the topic of ethics and morale right back into us, into our court, into the people's court. We have to take care of ethics and morale. On the other end of the spectrum, on your left, you have what we call narrow AI. Narrow AI typically means we take one technology out of AI, one algorithm, maybe a neural network or another model. We train it to do something very specific, and I can tell you these computers are relentless efficiency guys. They are much better than McKinsey. They create efficiency on a multivariable, free variable problem in no time. This is what narrow AI does. You have a trained network, you plug it in, it creates efficiency in exactly that. But it is only applicable in a very narrow way. That means you can't apply to something else. If you have a narrow AI that will improve your tomato yield in your greenhouse by 20%, it will kill all your beans because they don't turn red. Do this, but this is not really applying AI. Well, it is technically, right? But it's not getting the efficiency. It's just an efficiency project, like improving your processes. Like buying a new machine. Same thing, maybe with a faster speed of efficiency gain. And then in the middle, you have the general topic of the general AIs, general problem solvers. One platform that keeps learning about the world and that gets a little smarter and thus understands or starts understanding how it can employ its experience onto different problems. This is like learning to add in school and then understanding that you need adding when you interpret an invoice. Like, no one told you that that stuff gets added. Only few people seem to work on this general AI problem because it's hard. If you want to build general AI, you need 4 things. You need compute power, you need data, you need people, and you need algorithms. So here is the good news. If you just want to do AI, compute power is available on the cloud, algorithms are available as open source, people, that's kind of hard. There are not enough people, who studied this, who are not just specialized in one thing, but who are willing to go broad on it. And then there's data, which is the big problem. Like, we're all being told, the old industry is being told, data is the oil of the 21st century. The problem is these guys have no clue what to do with the data. Like, if data is the oil of the 21st century, we are the Indians, right? We are the Indians. Why? Because we have a torch. We know there's an oil lake. We put the torch to the oil lake. There's nice fire, but no oil and no motor car. Right? The problem with data is we don't know what it's good for, and then we invested a lot of money in that stuff, and then we end up doing regression and call it predictive analytics. So what is that data stuff good for? That data stuff is good for describing the world. See, the problem is an AI comes to the world empty. You have the history of every living thing on this planet. This is called Darwin's circle. I believe we have no creationists in here, right? So we can say that you have genetically inside yourself stored all the history of every living thing. That means you understand this, like intrinsically. And then you're born, and then you go to kindergarten, and then you go to school, and then you go to university, and constantly people explain the world to you. You know a lot about the world. An AI knows 0. Nothing. There's no genetic memory, none, not millions of years, not even a year, nothing. You have to teach it everything from scratch. And this is what we use data for. We explain the world to an AI with data. Structured data means we actually can give an explanation. Unstructured data means we show so many good and bad examples until it kind of figures it out himself. You try what is easier, right? You can tell someone not to touch the hot oven, or you can just let them try a few times. So this is what data is good for, right? And you can explain the world by collecting data about it in 2 ways. You can collect data from the people who use the world through consumers by following them around, looking through their eyes and so on. Or you can do it the other way through inside out from the economy. It sounds a little bit like the Eloy and the Morlock, like from H.G. Wells. Here you have the Eloy on the right side, the happy consumers, and the people who actually get their hands dirty, the people who produce. Either way, these guys know that people like toast and need toasters to eat it, and these guys know that people like toast because they're baking it, and that need toasters because people are buying them. This is what data is good for. And I want to give you just one example that it is possible to compete on this scale, even if you're a small team. And we're a very small company compared to any of those giants. Even we like this research team and work together with them, yet on an intellectual level, we keep competing, right? So when Google played Go, we played Civilization, and it works. Like, even though Civilization is the harder game, they had more data, and so on and so forth, it is possible. This is not just because we might be a few smart people. I want to encourage you that you don't go home and say like, oh, there's someone else who can invest a few billion and I don't even have to get started. It's so sad, right? You can win, right? You just have to do it. By the way, it's really funny, when we started the Civilization project, the Facebook AI research team the same week published a paper that said a strategy game could not be approached in the next 5 years. It can, right? So here is what you can do as a company if you want to deal with AI. Number 1, you can wait until you're disrupted and you're gone. But you have a nice life till then, right? Nothing changes. You don't have to worry about change. Number 2, you're happy with just producing whatever you're producing, and then you can go and live with a smaller margin. Number 3, you can get panicky and you just go and buy all the consulting projects these large service providers come out with consulting you. Or number 4, you can sit your arse down and think what you would do if most of the stuff you produce can be produced at raw material cost plus a few percent. Come on, I mean, this is what you do as business people. You think about these things, come up with your own plan, and don't think you can do it like this, right? Google has been collecting data for 17 years. You can't do that in a minute. So here's the project plan for doing it. Get your act together. This is the most, decide that you want to do it and then really do it. If you don't want to do it, do the iPhone thing that I told you. Take a few pictures and put it on your web page that you're doing AI. Right? It's much cheaper and it doesn't annoy people so much. If you want to do it, you look for a Trojan horse project that you can put in that starts collecting data and makes money while you think about what you want to do next, and all the other stuff you do next. Only one more thing I'd like to say. Please think about these goals. There are 2 goals that are essential of the company. You can apply this to any industry. And I'm going through this very quickly. Like, these are use cases we have already done, and you can apply this to any industry. But the goals you have to keep in mind is, please do not be afraid of automation. Like, automating 80, 90, 99% is a good thing. Like, go to the place where people go to the office buildings in the morning, like where they get out of the U-Bahn, and look how many smiling faces you see. And then tell me again that all these people are happy doing what they're doing. Automation is a good thing because right now, in the transition period, we need the people. We are not going to get rid of the people. We need the people to work out what these companies do next. And the second thing is, help us work on also a European data pool. It doesn't have to be ours. It can be any European data pool, because currently you will only find large agglomerations of data in the US and in China. And since I'm a big fan of the balance of power, if you need data to explain to an AI where it is and where it's living, and if AI actually gets these efficiencies, we should have one too. Currently we don't. Thank you very much.